Hello everybody, welcome to Chambers tutorial. So this is the second lecture in the inorganic chemistry. The topic is bioinorganic chemistry, and today we are going to discuss about the myoglobin and hemoglobin and their oxygen binding nature. This is a crash course for GATE 2021. I have uploaded some videos on organic and physical chemistry as well. So I have already put the link in the description box. You can check there and you can watch those videos. And if you haven't watched the first lecture in this bioinorganic series, then I will recommend you to watch that, because these lectures are interrelated with each other, and this is a series of lectures which will basically complete the overall topic and will give you the basic idea or the basic concept for this chapter. Okay, so here this chapter is very much important from your NET and GATE perspective. For this case, I will recommend a book by Hui Kitar, a very well known book, and I have already taken this screenshot from that book also. So this is a very standard book and sufficient for your NET or GATE preparation. So if you thoroughly read the book, so that will be much helpful for you. But over here, what I am going to do, I am just going to represent you in a simplified manner, so that you can understand what is going on. Clear? So it's not always possible to read the complete chapter, because there's a little time left before our GATE examination. So over here, what my goal is to just represent the selective topics from the renowned books, and that will be much helpful for you. It will save your time, but you will know the complete concept about the chapter, and what is the gist of that chapter, just I am going to represent it over here. So in my previous class, I have already shown you the structure of the porphyrin ring, okay, or rather it was basically a porphine. I have given you the idea of porphine. Porphine is the basic unit, and the derivative we obtain from this porphine is called the porphyrin. And now what kind of derivative you can see? If you take a look at that, these are different substituents which are present with the porphyrin ring, okay. So over here, if I just mention it in the green circle, so you can see that this is basically the basic porphyrin unit. It is basically the porphyrin unit, okay, and this is the central metal ion. Over here it is iron. It is a central metal ion. This is the metal center. Around this metal center, this is the porphyrin ring, where these are the 4 pyrrole rings. So porphine consists of tetrapyrrole, connected tetrapyrrole, and this is a aromatic system. Now apart from that, what you can see, that around this porphyrin ring there are so many substituents, like these methyl substituent R1, R2. These all are different substituents which basically make the porphyrin. You know that porphyrin is nothing but the derivative of porphine. Now over here, if you check that what is the heme group is when porphyrin attached with the iron, then it will produce the heme group. And there are different kinds of heme group. It could be heme A, heme B, heme C, whatever, okay. Heme A, where the R1 and R2 are like this. R1 is this vinyl group and R2 is this long chain. And for heme B, both of them will be a vinyl group. Over here you can see that sulfur containing protein is present, that is nothing but the heme C. Clear? So these are different heme groups, and if you check this one, it says that the heme group of type A are found in cytochrome. The heme group of type B are found in hemoglobin and myoglobin. Today we are going to discuss about these two compounds or these two biomolecules or peroxidase, and cytochrome B, heme B is present, and for type C is found in cytochrome C. So now let's talk something about the interaction between this heme group and dioxygen. Now what it says basically, that hemoglobin and myoglobin are heme containing protein that are capable of bind with the dioxygen, and hemoglobin is the tetramer of myoglobin unit. So what you can see, that suppose there's a tetrapyrrole ring. These are the nitrogens of the tetrapyrrole ring, and I am just showing the porphyrin ring in this way. And in the center there is iron present, which basically produce the heme group. This is basically the heme group. Now heme group present in both myoglobin and hemoglobin. You can think that it is the basic structure of the myoglobin, okay, and around it there's a globin chain. I will show the brief structure later, but this is the unit of myoglobin, where a globin chain, this circle is nothing but the globin chain. Globin chain is the protein. It's a sequence of amino acids. It is basically a sequence of amino acid, okay. So this unit, this overall unit actually form the myoglobin. This is basically your myoglobin, okay. Now this is one unit. Such 4 units of myoglobin combine to produce a hemoglobin. Overall, this combination is producing the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is a tetramer. It is basically the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the tetramer of myoglobin. Tetramer means there are 4 myoglobin units. So it's basically a polymeric structure. Okay. Now this both hemoglobin and myoglobin found in vertebrate. And what is the function of hemoglobin? Hemoglobin picks up the dioxygen from the lungs or gill and transport it to the tissue where it is stored by myoglobin. And inside the tissue, this oxygen is stored and it is used in the metabolism. With the help of the metabolism, what we can see that we can get the energy from that. Clear? So dioxygen, if you consider, this is nothing but the structure of dioxygen, and it's a homonuclear diatomic. So it's a non-polar and obviously a soft ligand, and it has some amount of pi bonding capacity. So it can behave as a ligand. But what we can see that in deoxyhemoglobin as well as in myoglobin, deoxy means when they are not bind with the oxygen. So this iron 2 center is present. So over here, if you consider, it is basically the iron 2 center. It is basically the iron 2 center. Clear? So iron 2, if you just consider this Fe2 plus ion, it's not such a soft that it could bind with the oxygen. But what actually happens, this tetrapyrrole ring of the porphyrin leads to the softening of the Fe2 center. So this is the role of this porphyrin ring. This could be a very important question. So a question can be designed from this point, that what is the role of the porphyrin. So porphyrin ring plays a very important role to softening of the iron 2 center, so that it can bind with the oxygen. Okay. Now if you consider the other 2 ligands like cyanide or nitrosyl, these are even softer than oxygen. It is softer ligand than oxygen. Okay. And they have another effect which is called the synergistic effect. Synergistic effect. I will discuss this synergistic effect later in the organometallic lecture series. So due to these 2 effects, these ligands bind very strongly with the porphyrin ring or with the heme group. Clear? So what we can see that if there is a choice for a heme group between dioxygen and cyanide, it will obviously choose cyanide. It could be cyanide, sorry, here I made a mistake. It will be your CO. Okay, it will be your CO, carbon monoxide. So this is why you can see that cyanide poisoning or carbon monoxide poisoning occurs. But there is another reason which is explainable on the basis of cytochromes. Okay, so I will discuss it in my upcoming video. Anyway, so what is the basic sketch of the myoglobin? Basically, it's the deoxymyoglobin. You can see over here, this blue color circle is nothing but the globin chain, which is basically the sequence of amino acids. And inside the globin chain, iron 2 center is present along with the tetrapyrrole ring, which is basically the porphyrin ring, and it is nothing but your heme group. So myoglobin and hemoglobin both are heme containing protein. Now one interesting feature is that if you consider this fifth coordination with the iron, it is a nitrogen atom of the histidine. Histidine is an amino acid and it is present in this globin chain. So it binds with the histidine and it has a coordination bond between the nitrogen of histidine and the iron 2 center. Okay, so this is why in deoxymyoglobin, iron 2 plus is penta coordinated. This is obvious fact that this is why it can bind with oxygen, because after binding with the oxygen, its coordination number has become 6. So from coordination number 5 to 6 transition occur. So that has a opportunity to increase its coordination number, isn't it? Okay. So over here, this globin chain has an important role. Okay, it is an important role which basically prevent the free heme group to convert into the mu oxodimer called hematine. So what happens if globin chain is not present? In absence of globin chain, this heme group, this is basically the iron porphyrin ring, that will be converted into the mu oxodimer, which is called the hematine, and when it forms hematine, it is no longer bioactive. Okay, it actually irreversibly binds with the oxygen. So let's discuss about the hematine formation, how it actually happens. Look at this. This is basically the heme group. Over here, I am just showing this is basically the heme group, where this green circle is the porphyrin ring and iron 2 plus is present. Now you can see that the first step is the oxygen binding as occurred in the normal myoglobin or hemoglobin. So this is ordinary step. But now in absence of the globin chain, because look at this, there is no such globin chain. Once they have globin chain, then the further reaction will not occur. It will reversibly bind with the oxygen. But since there is no globin chain present, so what I can see that in the second step, what it can do, it can form a dimeric complex. It is basically a peroxidimeric complex, mu peroxidimeric complex with the help of this dioxygen ligand. Okay, it can bind with another heme group, because now heme groups are only free, they are free to move. So that is why what you can see that around them there is no coating of protein. So this kind of dimer formation occurs. And one very interesting feature is that iron is already oxidized into 3. From +2, it is oxidized into 3. Now in the second step, what we can see that it can produce the 2 equivalent of this kind of ferryle Fe4 complex, where the iron is oxidized to 4, +4 oxidation state. And now in the next step, when it again interact with another heme group, it is producing this kind of mu oxodimer. Okay, it's nothing but the mu oxodimer of iron 3, and it is a very stable complex. It is not only stable, it actually irreversibly bind with dioxygen, and that is why it is no longer bioactive. Clear? So this is a parallel reaction can happen in absence of your globin chain. Now coming back to the myoglobin. Myoglobin has a globin chain which is having 153 amino acids. Okay, that circular globin chain what we have shown over here, the porphyrin ring or heme group is present. Around the heme group, this globin chain or the protein chain has 153 amino acids, and it is penta coordinated iron 2 in its deoxy state. And the penta coordination, I have already said that the 4 nitrogen atoms from the tetrapyrrole ring of porphyrin and 1 nitrogen atom from the histidine of the globin chain. Now what actually happens when dioxygen binds with this iron 2 center, penta coordinated iron 2 center, it forms a 150 degree. So if you consider this angle, it will be around 150 degree. Again, I have taken this picture from the famous book Wheeketer-Keter Inorganic Chemistry, 4th edition. Now what you can see that over here a bent fashion of binding occurs, and oxygen binds with O2 minus. Okay, so it is a superoxide. It binds in the form of superoxide. Fine. So in the next slide, what we can see that when it is in the deoxy form, if you consider this one, when the myoglobin is in deoxy form, the iron was present in +2 oxidation state and iron 2 plus in high spin. So if you know the crystal field splitting of this octahedral complex, so it will be high spin, so it will be T2G 1 2 3 4 5 6. So Fe2 plus high spin in octahedral geometry forms this kind of splitting, but when it binds with the oxygen, it becomes a low spin iron 2 where 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so it is basically having low spin or T2G6 geometry. Okay, so from high spin to low spin, conversion occurs after binding with the oxygen, when it binds with the oxygen. Now point is that in some book like in Housecroft, you can see that from iron 2 plus to iron 3 plus low spin conversion will occur, but it's not experimentally proven that what actually happens. So you can think that these two are in equilibrium. Okay, but most of the cases you will find that Fe2 plus high spin to Fe2 plus low spin. Okay, so moving on to our next topic, that what happens when it is present in Fe2 plus high spin. For high spin case, the ionic radius is greater than the low spin case. So the iron center will have a larger radius when it is present in the deoxy state, when it doesn't bind with the oxygen. Clear? In deoxymyoglobin, iron 2 plus has a larger ionic radius. Now the consequence of this is visualized in this picture or in this diagram. What you can see, this is the central iron atom. Okay, now it is a plane where the porphyrin ring was present. So if you just consider, or if you just check this part of this diagram, you can see that the iron 2 plus center is slightly above the porphyrin ring. So iron 2 plus, which is in right now in high spin, because over here there is no oxygen is attached. These are 4 nitrogen of the tetrapyrrole ring of this porphyrin ring. This is basically the porphyrin ring, and this is basically the histidine nitrogen. This nitrogen, it is histidine moiety, and this is the histidine nitrogen. So now it's a penta-coordinated iron. Clear? This iron is penta-coordinated, and over here what you can see that it is present slightly above the plane of the porphyrin ring. So this is due to the fact that iron 2 plus has larger ionic radius. It doesn't fit in the cavity of the cavity formed in the inside the porphyrin ring. It is slightly above 40 picometer above the plane of the porphyrin ring. Okay. So the result of that I will discuss it when I will just explain the cooperative effect and the conversion from T state to R state. But before going to discuss the cooperative effect, let's take a closer look at the oxygen binding procedure of myoglobin and hemoglobin. So what you can see that in case of the lungs, where there is a larger concentration of oxygen, hemoglobin binds with oxygen. Hemoglobin is a tetramer, so that means it has 4 iron center. So that 4 iron center is capable of binding with 4 oxygen. So it basically binds with 4 oxygen to produce this compound. Now in tissue, what you can see that over here HbO2/4, that means the oxy, it is the oxyhemoglobin, is now transferred into the deoxyhemoglobin, and basically inside tissue there are deoxymyoglobin which is transferred into oxymyoglobin. This is happening. Now why in tissue hemoglobin loses oxygen and myoglobin binds with it? It can be explainable with the help of this diagram. Again, this curve I have taken from Huikitter book. Now if you see that this first curve, okay, this one, what I am just highlighting it with this green line. This curve actually curve of the myoglobin. You can see that it is number 1, this 1, is the curve corresponding to the myoglobin. And if I mention the curve for the hemoglobin in this red color, so this is the curve for the hemoglobin. Okay, so this number 2 is the curve for the hemoglobin, and the curve for the hemoglobin when there is a carbon dioxide concentration. Now I will discuss it later, because there will be a comparison between 2, 3, 4 on the basis of the CO2 concentration. That's another issue, but it is the curve for the hemoglobin. So if I just simplify this diagram where I am just showing these two curves, so this is basically curve for the hemoglobin, and if you consider the curve for myoglobin, it will look like this. Okay, so from this curve, what you can see that this hemoglobin curve, which is basically a sigmoidal curve, corresponding to the hemoglobin, and inside this x-axis it is the partial pressure of oxygen, and here the percent of the saturation, oxygen saturation or oxygen binding, what you can see. So from this curve, what you can see, when the partial pressure of oxidation is low, this is the region where the low partial pressure of oxygen is present. So in this case, the myoglobin, you consider any one point. Suppose I am considering this is the point where in the low partial pressure of oxygen. Over here, the percent saturation of hemoglobin is nothing but this level. Okay, but on contrary, the percent saturation of myoglobin is this one. So when the partial oxygen pressure is low, there is a low partial oxygen pressure. So over there you can see that hemoglobin has very low percent saturation. That means the affinity to bind with the oxygen is very low for hemoglobin. So from this curve, what you can see, when low concentration of oxygen, or you can see that PO2 is lower, the affinity of hemoglobin towards oxygen is lower as compared to that of myoglobin. So when low partial oxygen pressure is there, then you can see that hemoglobin has a lower affinity to bind with oxygen. Inside the tissue, there's a higher carbon dioxide concentration and lower oxygen concentration, because metabolism leads to the consumption of the oxygen and formation of the carbon dioxide. That is why in tissue there is very low oxygen pressure, and in this case myoglobin has much greater tendency to bind with the oxygen, and that is why hemoglobin loses its oxygen, which is just captured by the myoglobin present in the tissue, and they basically store it in the form of oxymyoglobin, and that oxygen will be used further. But in case of lungs, when we inhale, what we can see, we actually inhaling the air having the higher oxygen content, and inside the lungs, what you can say, or the alveoli, which is the basically air sac inside the lungs, that is filled with the higher concentration of oxygen. So there the partial pressure of oxygen or the concentration of oxygen is higher. Under that condition, deoxyhemoglobin readily capture the oxygen. So you can see that when the partial oxygen pressure is higher, it is the higher PO2. So you can see that under this condition, it has a very high affinity to bind with the oxygen. So when this hemoglobin find an atmosphere where the PO2 is very high, it is very high. So under this condition, what you can see, it has a strong affinity towards oxygen. So this is the case happening. Okay. So now if I consider these three sigmoidal curves written over here for hemoglobin, these three sigmoidal curves are for hemoglobin, but at different partial pressure of carbon dioxide. For 2, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 20 mm Hg. It is for 20 mm Hg. For 3, that means this one, for 3, it is your 40 millimeter Hg, and in case of the fourth curve, you can see it is your 80 millimeter Hg. So it is nothing but the concentration of carbon dioxide. Now what you can see that when carbon dioxide is generated inside any organism, it finds aqueous atmosphere and it basically produces H2CO3, that is a carbonic acid. So it is basically carbonic acid. When carbonic acid concentration increases, that means the acidity increases as well as the pH value decreases. So as the partial pressure of CO2 increases, we can see that pH decreases. So acidity of the medium increases. Okay, this is clear or not? Now what I can see, when the acidity increases, the affinity of hemoglobin towards O2 decreases. Now this is very important point. If you see these three curves, as the concentration of carbon dioxide increases from left to right, you can see that this curve is getting flattened. For any partial pressure of oxygen, if you just consider the curve, you can see that this is the corresponding saturation of oxygen when the pH level is lower, and in the same point, this is the saturation of the oxygen when pH level is higher. Inside tissue, due to metabolism, CO2 is generated. So what I can see that around tissue, the acidity increases due to the generation of the CO2. So when hemoglobin, which is basically the oxyhemoglobin, it already binds with the 4 oxygen molecules. Now when it comes in the tissue where the acidity of the medium is greater, its affinity to bind with the oxygen decreases, so it will lose some oxygen and that will be captured by myoglobin. Clear? So that is happening in the tissue. So due to this effect has a name called the Bohr effect. It is called the Bohr effect. Clear? Okay. Now let's discuss about the cooperative effect of hemoglobin. So first let's discuss about the finding of the kinetics of oxygen bindings. Hemoglobin binds with the first oxygen molecule with equilibrium constant K1. It produces HbO2. Then it binds with the another O2 molecule, it producing HbO2 whole twice. Then it binds with another O2, forming HbO2 whole thrice, another O2, the constant K4, HbO2 whole 4. Now experimental observation is that K4 is greater than K3 is greater than K2 is greater than K1. So from this experimental observation, what I can see that when first oxygen binds with the hemoglobin, now it has greater tendency to bind with the second one. When second oxygen binds with hemoglobin, it has even more tendency to bind with another oxygen. So in this way, successive binding of the oxygen basically leads to the increase in the affinity of the hemoglobin to bind with the next oxygen. So this continues up to fourth oxygen binding. So this is called the cooperative effect. That means binding with the first oxygen basically exerts a cooperative effect on the hemoglobin so that its tendency to bind with the second oxygen increases. So gradually lesser time is required for the successive oxygen binding. So what you can see that this effect is explainable with the help of the structure of the hemoglobin before and after binding with the oxygen. So again, if I consider this diagram or this picture, which I have already taken from the Wikitucky book, you can see that, consider this one, first picture, which is depicted over A. In this case, you can see that this is the iron center. This is basically your iron 2 center. Now what you can see that these two are nothing but the part of the porphyrin ring, and these are the nitrogen of the pherols present in porphyrin ring. Okay, this plane of the porphyrin ring is not the straight, it's to some extent bent. And not only that, what you can see that this iron is present slightly lower the plane, and it is around 40 picometer lower the plane, and that is why what you can see, due to that deviation, the pyrrole moiety or the tetrapyrrole moiety or overall the structure of the porphyrin is to some extent strained. Okay, so it is to some extent strained structure. Due to this strain, it has some amount of strain inside that pyrrole ring, and the iron 2 plus in high spin, when it is in deoxy state, it doesn't bind with the oxygen, so it's present in the high spin, so it has a larger size ionic radius, and that's why it's cannot fit in the cavity of the porphyrin ring. So it is present just 40 picometer out of the plane, and that basically increases the strain inside the heme group. That when oxygen molecule bind with the iron, now this iron 2 plus is converted to low spin. From high spin to low spin conversion occurs, the size is lowered and at ionic size decreases, so now it can fit in the cavity of the porphyrin ring, and it just suitably fit inside the porphyrin ring. This is nothing but the part of porphyrin ring. These two are nitrogens of the porphyrin rings, you can see. So what you can see now, it is present in the plane of the porphyrin ring, and now this porphyrin ring has no such strain. It has no such strain, and that is why what you can find over here, that it is due to that oxygen binding, the iron 2 plus has lower size, and that lower size makes it fit into the cavity of the porphyrin ring. Okay, so from deoxy to oxy state, what you can see, now I am just giving you the synopsis. So in deoxy myoglobin, iron 2 plus is outside the plane of porphyrin ring, and there is strain in the molecule. So that is basically form a 10 state or the T state. Okay, and when it binds with the oxygen or dioxygen, iron 2 plus converts from high spin to low spin, so its ionic radius decreases and it is fit inside the cavity. So as a result of that, you can see that now porphyrin ring has no such strain, so it is now in relaxed state. Clear? So this is the driving force of the myoglobin to bind with the dioxygen. It basically releases the strain inside the porphyrin ring or the heme group. Now point is that how it actually exerts the cooperative effect in hemoglobin. So if you carefully look at this structure, you can see that this iron 2 plus, which was initially present in high spin, converted into the low spin and just fit into the cavity. So the distance between this plane of the porphyrin ring and the first atom of this nitrogen of histidine, which was basically a part of the globin chain, was initially 270 picometer, which is reduced to 210 picometer. So what you can see that initially iron 2 plus in high spin having larger size was something below in the plane of the porphyrin ring. Suppose it is the plane of the porphyrin ring. So now this bind with the histidine molecule of the globin chain, which is basically present over here. Now when the size of this iron 2 plus center decreases upon binding with the dioxygen, suppose now it binds with the dioxygen and its size decreases to this one, and it is now present in low spin. It is already bound with the dioxygen. Now what you can see that this iron 2 plus is now to some extent upward shifted to fit into the cavity of the porphyrin ring. So that is why if you now consider the corresponding nitrogen of the histidine, it will be something dragged upside, and that is why, and there will be the change in the conformation of the globin chain. So there will be a change in the conformation of globin chain. Okay. Upon binding with the oxygen, it now fits into the cavity of the porphyrin ring, and that is why it is now to some extent upside dragged. So the gap between the porphyrin ring and the iron 2 plus was initially 40 picometer. Now the gap is lesser. So that is why the gap between this porphyrin ring and the nitrogen of the histidine was initially 270 picometer, which is now reduced to 210 picometer. So there will be a change in the 60 picometer if you can compare with this figure. So from here what you can see that there is a change in the globin chain. So due to that conformational change, it basically gives a very interesting effect to release the strain in the hemoglobin molecule. So if you consider the hemoglobin molecule, it's basically a tetramer. Okay, it's tetramer. I have shown it. These are nothing but the globin chain, and inside it there you can see that inside this tetramer there is this kind of heme group is present. It is basically the heme group. So these are basically green solid circle and nothing but represent the heme group, and this red circles are nothing but the globin chain. So each of these are nothing but the myoglobin units, and between these myoglobin units there was the interaction which is called the salt bridge interaction. You can see salt bridge interaction between them. That is basically the interaction between the NH3 plus and CO2 minus. There will be this kind of electrostatic interaction which is called the salt bridge interaction. You know that inside the protein chain there are so many amide linkage, and there are CO2H residue, NH3 residue, NH2 residue. So that actually exerts this kind of salt bridge interaction. Now what happens when suppose this heme group now bind with the oxygen. When this heme group binds with the oxygen, there will be some amount of the change in the globin chain, and that change in the globin conformation will lead to that binding with the oxygen. What you can see, binding with oxygen changes conformation of the globin chain, and when the conformational change occurs, some salt bridge interactions are lost, okay, due to the change in the globin chain. Now although salt bridge interaction stabilizes the tetramer, but still this tetramer was initially present in a 10 state or T state. So initially it was in T state, because this salt bridge interaction although stabilizes the tetramer, but to some extent strain in the molecule happens. Now when it binds with the oxygen, some of this strain or some of this linker is disconnected. It's not like that all of the salt bridge interactions are lost and then there will be no existence of the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is present, tetramer is present, but due to the binding of the oxygen, what we can see, some of this kind of strain is released. And due to that fact, what you can see that now the molecule, some of this interaction, salt bridge interaction is lost, and now the molecule is to some extent you can think that present in relaxed state. Okay. Now in the previous slide I have described that how the porphyrin ring is converted from tense state to relaxed state for the case of the myoglobin. Now when the myoglobin unit is present in the hemoglobin tetramer, then it is leading to the decrease in the salt bridge interaction, and that is basically increases the stability of the hemoglobin molecule by decreasing the strain inside the molecule. So these are the facts which are very important to understand the cooperativity, because when oxygen binds with one unit of the myoglobin present inside the hemoglobin, that basically increases the stability. Now that stability reinforces the binding of the second oxygen. So when it binds with the second oxygen, when this second myoglobin unit binds with the oxygen, again some of the salt bridge interactions are lost. That will again lead to some more relaxed state. So it will reinforce the binding of the third oxygen over here, and in this way fourth oxygen binding. So in this way each oxygen binding will basically lead to the extra stability by releasing the strain. So that is why the cooperative effect is observed in hemoglobin. Okay. So I think that's all for today's class. From my next class I will just start with the cytochromes. Okay, cytochrome, and then we will move on to some non-heme proteins. These all are heme proteins. Cytochromes up to cytochromes all are heme proteins. Now we will move on to some non-heme proteins like rubradexin. Then we will move on to some different metallozymes. Okay, so those will be discussed one by one. Now I hope you have understood all the things. So that's all for today. Thank you. Happy learning. And if you liked my video, then don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you.